Coming from part two from yesterday. So yesterday was part one, folk talking about you. Today's message, they still talking. So understand that even though you listen to those words, people are still going to talk regardless. Galatians 2:20. It says, "I am crucified with Christ, nevertheless I live, yet not I, but Christ liveth in me, and the life which now live in the flesh, I live by the faith of the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me." So again, so we know that, folk are going to continue talking, but it doesn't matter. There's things that God is going to call you to do or tell you to do that some people just not going to understand. They might not agree with you. They say, well, I think you should do this, and God is pointing in a direction to do this, and you got to do what God said. First Philippians 4:11, it says, "I am not saying this because I am in need, for I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances." So yesterday, my cousin Tanisha, she had Tanisha Major, she had put a post out there about leaving an old apartment and going to another chapter in her life, and how she struggled and things like that, and it was a great testimony, how she said she slept in the, on the floor and, was getting things together, and taking her time getting things. And that's what it talks about, being content in whatever situation. A lot of times, as the phrase goes, we try to keep up with the Joneses. But it doesn't matter how long it takes you, to get there. I remember when I had my kids younger, when I was younger, and, people would talk about, the type of shoes that I had, like I was wearing some Shaqs at some time, and people would laugh, but, I wanted to make sure my children had, and at that time, that's what I could afford. But, it really don't matter because, in life, people think that's what really true happiness is, having a lot of stuff, and it's really not. There are people that has, money that, they don't even need, but that's not their, happiness is not in that. It has to be in God, because you could sit here and buy something, and money, having money, when you buy something, that could be just a temporary fix for happiness, because you'll go buy something and you'll be happy, but after a while it just fade away, man. Your joy has to be in God. That's why you see people that, you hear people say, more money, more problems. That's just a saying that they believe, and then that's exactly what happens, because that's what you're pretty much telling God, like, this is what it is. And a lot of times, people don't understand that their happiness can't be in the money or whatever, and people think that, more money is going to solve the problem, when you can have a person that, doesn't have a lot of money and they spend it, and then you give $1 million. That's why you see people, or more than that, or millionaires, and they don't have any more money, because their happiness wasn't in that. Your happiness has to be in God. And what good is it to have $1 million if you can't even manage it correctly? Just go back to the verse 12, 1 Philippians 4:12. It says, "I know what it is to be in need. I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want." Verse 13, "I can do all this through him who gives me strength." We know you can do this through Christ who strengthens you. Verse 14, "Yet it was good of you to share in my troubles." So what Jesus was saying, that, it's just okay. A lot of times, we may want to have something right away. But, to God be the glory. I was just watching a video on Facebook. A guy, he, was looking for a kidney, and looking for 8 years. He said he'd been doing dialysis, and after 15 attempts, he finally found a match. God is faithful in His promise. God doesn't always, move when we want to. We say, all right, Lord, like, I need a kidney. Like, you got 6 months. Man, it took 8 years. Like, that's a long time. And I'm pretty sure there's probably others that waited longer or whatever. But God is always faithful on His promises. And that's all I just want to tell you today. So regardless if they still talking, just continue to look towards God, because again, He's faithful with His promises. Matthew 5:4. "But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you." So some people can be like, all right, well, that's being fake. It's not. That's what God wants. That's being real. A lot of times, we say, well, real talk, or, that's what it should be anyway, but God said, love your enemies, pray for those. That doesn't mean you have to be with them every day. There's enemies that I speak to, I even give them a hug at times, but it's just to say, what, God bless you, and to keep it like that, you know. There's times when, you know, people are seasonal people, but sometimes you run into people like that. You know, you might just say hello or whatever, or shake their hand, or God bless you. You know, you keep it minimal. There's really nothing too much to talk about, you know, or anything like that. But, you know, God said, you know, pray for them, you know, love your enemies, you know. And some people have to love from a distance. That don't mean say, hey, let's go out, let's get some coffee, let's sit and talk, chat it up, man. How everything been? You know, there's people that you know, was real tight, and then the circle changed, and you know, just not as close as anymore, you know, because of some circumstances. Now, I still have some good friends that, you know, just, you know, we just live a distance away, but that's the difference, you know. But I just wanted to encourage you and let you know that, you know, to be happy and content in your situation, and know that, you know, it may take some time to get whatever you want, or, you know, to find that house, you know, to find that job, find that husband, find that wife. I mean, whatever, you know, God is still faithful in his promises, you know, and that's where we have to be able to be content in that situation and know that, you know, God said he'll supply all our needs according to our riches and glory. I just wanted to encourage you today. God bless.